Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of RGTG. This is yours truly, Mr. Andrew Price, and today we're going to be working on a biomass factory. And this project, if any of you guys are Etho fans like I am, is of course inspired by his recent insistence on just using biomass. Now, me personally, I'm not that retentive. I'm not going to go to that kind of effort. That's very difficult to do what he's doing. However, there are a lot of benefits to using biomass engines. Apparently we had an issue here. That's not good. Anyways, essentially you can see here we've got a bunch of biogas engines here set up, and this is a very, very rough, oh gosh, this is bad. There we go. Example of kind of a glass factory for making that hardened glass that I showed in my last video. Because I need to make a lot of it to obviously make my nuclear containment area. Now I could use electrical engines for them, but they're really inefficient and I just don't like using them. Plus they leach off of my main power grid. So what I'm going to try to do is set up an area like this, and we're going to get this set up so that I can start creating my hardened glass for my setup. Obviously, I need to do a much better job with wiring this up. I just kind of wanted to see what the power usage would be like. In fact, we can just go ahead and turn all of this off. Now, I'm not going to go through the power benefits for this because I think Etho's touched on that enough. And basically these are really, they provide a lot of power for what you are really using to produce it. And of course it's a nice sustainable green energy source. But there are some tricks to this setup, and because of that, and I can go ahead and show you a little bit on here now. And you'll see in the final design that we show off today, it's a lot different than this. This is really claustrophobic in here. And in fact, there were a lot of issues like here. You can see that, this pipe got turned the wrong way. And so we have a bunch of saplings floating around doing nothing. And so I'm going to really try to do something different today. And to be honest, I've already recorded this setup. Or recorded this video, so I know what happens, obviously. I was going to try to do it more of a let's play, but I didn't end up liking it when I tried doing it that way. But I try to do some things differently because I really don't like... Ooh, there's the draw distance. Kind of like a graphic equalizer. Don't. Okay, I'm not fast enough to get it to draw. There we go. Right on the verge right there. Don't. Anyways... My screwiness aside, I'm so happy to not be editing anymore. God, that took forever. But anyways, you'll see why in a second. But basically, I try to do a little bit different setup today. Because I'm really kind of tired of the standard kind of tutorial type video. I mean, they're great. I mean, if you're not sure how to build something, they're great, but they're just a little bit too constraining. You get the person who's like, hello, my name is Bob. I'm going to be showing you how to set up a piston today. We are going to put a piston here. And then we are going to put a redstone repeater here. And then we put a switch here. And look, we have a piston. So I don't really want to do that kind of a video. Partially because this is pretty complex and it's pretty bulky. So you may have to work around whatever you have in your base. So what I'm going to try to do with today's video is, instead of focusing on like block placement and stuff like that, instead we're going to just focus on how the thing actually works. And I hopefully did a good enough job with that you can tell just by watching the video how each of the subsystems works, and based on that you can come up with your own design. And I'm hoping that that's going to allow for more creativity, but it may actually just be an abysmal failure because I may have made it too complicated or something like that, because that's what I do. So you guys will have to let me know what you think of it. Obviously, it's something that I put a lot of work into, but, you know, maybe it's something where I need to go back to the drawing board or do a different approach or something like that, but you'll just have to let me know. Also, one other thing I did want to mention is I'm using a different mic right now because, well, my mic broke. I had a Blue Yeti, and yeah, it just broke. And so I'm hoping it'll get repaired under warranty, but for right now I'm using a different microphone, so hopefully the levels are okay. I'm trying to mess with it. To be honest, I don't like it that much right now, partially because it has a giant blue LED that is staring me right in my eyes right now, that I've actually put a piece of paper over to help reduce that, but yeah, I feel like I'm being blinded. But anyways, I guess let's not muck around anymore. I've done enough of that, I think, probably on camera for, well, everyone. And let's go ahead and cue the music. Okay, so as I said in the intro for this video, we're going to be using a slightly different format for today's episode. And as part of that, I'm going to go ahead and show you the finished project. Ooh, ah. See, that was not hard to build at all. This is Andrew and Bryce saying good night and good gaming. Bye! No, of course I'm just kidding. No, for this video, we're going to go in something of a reverse chronological order. My reasoning for this is due in part to how complex this particular build was to do for me, and I'm also hoping that by going through the final product first, it will keep me from screwing you guys up any if you try to replicate this design on your own. Basically, I'd much rather go into details about a design I know works and then talk about the general construction of it, rather than mudding the waters by spending a lot of time on my earlier revisions that, you know, admittedly didn't have all the bugs worked out. Now, as I alluded to earlier, there are a large number of moving parts to this system, and it is important to note that in this example, I'm using 2 separate engine and power types to run everything. In total, it has 1 biogas engine, 12 Stirling engines for providing power to devices that require Minecraft Joule energy, and it is also tied into my Hydro array, as it does use a number of machines that require an EU power supply to operate as well. Obviously, if you are building this on your own, you can get away with doing some of this differently, but for me I found that this to be an excellent solution that works really well together. Now, this build may seem really difficult at first glance, and in fact I had a lot of issues laying everything out at first. So much so, that, in fact, that I actually started working on a flowchart to help with that effort. Thankfully, before I wasted too much time with that, though, I came to my senses and realized if I just went through and built each subsystem separately and tried to keep in mind where I might position other devices, it's really not that hard to put together. So with that in mind, I'm going to attempt to do that with you here today. And hopefully by using this sort of Bass-Ackwards approach, I will keep any confusion that might, come from this video to a minimum. So the first step in that process, as we learned in the Ethonian Tin Factory episode, is to turn the device on. Now, I have a computer that manages this setup, and I'll explain why I did that later, but really it does not matter. Any type of redstone signal will do. Now, in my design, this redstone signal is carried via stone pipe down underneath the system through its proverbial boiler room of sorts, and it comes up right underneath the biogas engine. This signal is then transmitted to the Stirling engines via a redstone power from an iron gate on the control pipe to 4 separate gold gates that extend out on the sides, that then, of course, transmit the on state to another set of gold gates that are positioned right below the Stirling engines via some blue pipe wire. Once these engines turn on, they provide power via a network of gold and wooden conductive pipes to all the devices that require MJ energy to operate. These systems are the farm, the combine, arboretum, logger, magma crucible, fermenter, carpenter, and squeezer. The only exception to this is the pump, which is powered by 2 standalone redstone engines. Now, all the other devices in the system either do not require power or just need a redstone signal to operate, like the 3 auto crafting tables and the igneous extruder. Or, alternatively, they run on EU energy, as is the case with the 5 electric furnaces and 1 macerator that I use in this design. Now, this power is supplied via a fiber cable that I've run alongside the control pipe into the basement of this system. Now, beyond that, we're using a mixture of redstone engines, control gates, and autark gates to provide the power necessary to move items through the various pipes to the requisite devices that are responsible for handling and processing those items. Now, the first system that we should really take a look at is the farm/combine. The farm's purpose is, of course, to provide wheat and seeds to the system. These are then sent to auto-crafting tables to make both dirt and compost that are then used in the processes of fermenting saplings into biomass and crafting humus that is required by the arboretum to continue operation. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, though, let's first look at the piping attached to these systems. In the case of the farm, all the generated items come out of the combine, and so we just use a wooden pipe to extract those materials from that particular block. Now, thankfully, with the combine, we do not have to worry about autark gates or redstone engines or anything like that to do this. They will naturally exit the combine once they have been harvested. To separate the wheat from the seeds, we use a diamond pipe, and once they have been sorted, we then send the wheat through another pipe that branches in 2 different directions that lead to 2 separate auto-crafting tables. These are, of course, responsible for making both the compost and the plant balls. Now, the seeds can be used to make plant balls as well. However, obviously, we need to keep the farm adequately stocked with seeds so that it can continue operation while the machine is on. To do this, we use a wooden pipe to move seeds from the diamond pipe where they were sorted to an iron pipe that is connected both to the auto-crafting table, where they will be processed into plant balls, and of course the farm itself. To manage the farm's seed supply, we simply attach an iron gate to the pipe that is directly next to the farm itself, and have it transmit a red pipe signal to another iron gate attached to the previously mentioned iron pipe to determine the direction of item flow. Now, there are 2 settings that you can use here. One that requests seeds when this farm supply is less than 10%, and one at 25%. Personally, I use 25% as it really does not matter other than the initial seed cost, and it should help to ensure continuous production from the farm. Now, unlike the arboretum, the farm doesn't require a constant supply of substrate to keep planting crops. So, as long as you do not prance around your field all day, trampling your crops like a ninny, you don't have to worry about supplying it with more dirt once it has a started operation. Okay, now that we've covered the farm and the combine and we've ensured that they can operate continuously, let's go down the line and look at how the wheat and seeds are processed once they leave that area. Now, in the case of my system, I have a looped pipe that extends along the perimeter of the processing area that I use for directing and carrying the items to different processing destinations. In the case of the seeds, they are directed into this system via a diamond pipe and then subsequently directed to an auto-crafting table where they are then used to make plant balls. The plant balls, which come both from seeds and wheat, are then sent to a macerator where they are converted to dirt. Once leaving the macerator, the dirt is then directed to the auto-crafting table responsible for creating compost, as that is a reagent necessary for that particular recipe, or a chest where it is held for the carpenter whenever it's ready to make humus. To avoid the system potentially getting overloaded with dirt blocks, however, I do have an iron gate and an iron pipe that direct access to the chest for holding dirt that can also be used to switch that particular feed to a void pipe, thereby preventing a case where maybe, you go AFK and you end up with like 1,000 items laying on the floor, causing the server to lag out. Now, directing dirt to the carpenter can of course be handled by gates, but unfortunately the carpenter is a bit of a pain in this regard. Because producing humus requires both a supply of dirt and mulch, and the apples used to produce mulch come at irregular intervals, you can't simply tell an iron gate to request supplies until the carpenter's inventory is totally full, as it would not allow room for mulch in the system, and it would lead to an eventual cessation of production once the arboretum's humus supply had been exhausted. Additionally, Because making humus takes 8 blocks of dirt, you cannot use redstone engines or autark gates to supply it with dirt when it is empty. And even if you did use a more powerful engine type to pull the dirt out of the chest, there's always the chance that you might get another piece of mulch in the system before it is emptied, which again would lead to a system failure. To avoid this, I have the Carpenter pull dirt blocks when it has work. Now this solution is not perfect, but it works well enough, and if you occasionally check the dirt levels, you should be fine to run for hours at a time while you're AFK. Once the Carpenter is done producing humus, it then directs this material through the same pipe that all of the Arboretum's output materials are directed through once they are collected. This is done via diamond pipes, of course, and the humus is stored in a chest on the wheat level where we use a golden gate, blue pipe wire, and an autark gate to supply the Arboretum when its supply of humus gets low. Now, unlike the farm, however, the Arboretum itself outputs material in the form of sand. Therefore, we must use a diamond pipe to both direct saplings into the Arboretum's storage holds and pull sand away from the Arboretum and into the processing loop. Thankfully, the logger, on the other hand, is much easier, and we can simply just use one diamond pipe to separate saplings from any wood and apples it harvests. These materials are directed down the same pipe that we previously used to transport humus up to the Arboretum, where they are then processed. Sand is directed to a pipe that is split 3 ways, in which 2/3 of it goes directly into chests for storage, and the remaining third is processed via an electric furnace into glass. Because, as you can probably tell, I really like using glass. Now, of course, with this type of a system, we're also going to use iron gates that are linked together via red pipe to determine when those chests are full, so that any excess supplies that are not being used can be directed to a void pipe to once again avoid any server lag. Apples are directed to the squeezer where they are converted into apple juice we can then use in the fermenter, and obviously mulch is directed to the Carpenter to make humus. We will touch on this more later, but for right now, let's focus on the wood. And yes, that's what she said. Wood is directed out of the sorting loop, down a pipe, in a similar way to the control pipe we talked about earlier. Once in the basement, the wood is then split 5 ways, with 4 paths going to electric furnaces and 1 going to a barrel where it is, of course, stored for me to use in later projects. Storing the wood is not necessary, but I find it convenient for when I want to build a stack of pistons or something. It's always nice to have some extra wood around. After the wood is split, the electric furnaces, of course, turn the wood into charcoal, and then the charcoal is then directed into a barrel that acts as a storage buffer for the system until it is needed. The same gold gates that we use to activate the Stirling engines for when the system is turned on are also used to notify the system when their inventory is empty, and they submit a red pipe signal to an iron gate and redstone engine attached to the barrel to call for more charcoal. Now this is another example of an imperfect system, as there are a number of issues that exist with how this particular type of apparatus works. For one, the charcoal is distributed randomly whenever a engine calls for it, so there is always a chance that if we're low on charcoal, that the Stirling engine that is empty might not get any. However, really it's not that big a deal, as the system can run on the biogas engine on its own, and in general, most of the Stirling engines do stay operating throughout whenever the system is on. Also, I do not presently have any systems in place to prevent the charcoal conversion, buffer, and storage systems from getting overloaded. However, as of right now, it doesn't seem to be that much of an issue either, as the Stirling engines are not that efficient and they don't allow for much buildup in the system itself. However, if it proves to be an issue later, I may go back to the original idea I had of using charcoal power generators to supply EU power to the facility so that it is not leaching off of my primary storage array. Or I could always install void pipes like we do with the dirt storage facility, but I don't really think that's going to be necessary. Going back to the main production floor, we have a chest dedicated purely for sapling storage. Now we use gold gates attached to the fermenter to call for both compost and saplings independently of one another, similar to how we can call for humus and saplings with the Arboretum. Now there is something important to note here, because you can see that with the iron gates, or the gold gates I should say, that there is an option for calling for fuel. This is in fact the compost. So if you're doing this type of setup, keep that in mind, as it will, obviously be a requirement for the system to stay operational. I may eventually do void pipe overflows for these chests as well, but again, as of right now, it has not been an issue. The fermenter requires liquids to operate and produce biomass. In the case of this system, these liquids are either apple juice or water. The water for this system is provided by a pump that has an infinite water supply to pull from, and because it is only being powered by 2 redstone engines, it is not capable of completely emptying the liquid from the containment area. But yet, it does still produce enough liquid to adequately hydrate both the Carpenter and the fermenter, which, as you probably know, both require water or some form of liquid to operate. For apple juice, we have a waterproof output from the squeezer that has an iron pipe at the bottom of it to prevent the liquids from flowing back up. On that iron pipe, we have an iron gate that submits a red pipe signal to another iron gate that is positioned behind the junction from the apple juice feed that essentially cuts off the water supply until the apple juice source pipe is completely empty. This system makes sure that the pipe stays pretty much full at all times and allows apple juice to be input into the fermenter's feed anytime it is available, as it is a better liquid component for making biomass. The tanks here don't really have a purpose other than to look cool and to give us a better idea as to what kind of liquid is currently being processed through the fermenter. Leading from the fermenter, we have a wood pipe that has an autark gate attached to it that will remove biomass from the fermenter's tank anytime it is present. The biomass is then pumped up to the iron tank that resides at the center of our tree farm and is used as a holding area for any biomass that is generated. The biomass stored in this tank can then be pumped either to the small tank that is attached to our biogas engine, or the extremely visible tanks that will be used to supply biomass to the systems throughout our base. These, once again, are partially there simply because, well, they look cool. And beyond that, they do obviously offer us more storage as well, so they're not completely without purpose. The tank attached to our biogas engine does have a purpose, however, beyond just looking cool, as once again we use red pipe wire to call for supplies when the engine starts to run low on its liquid fuel. But as the biogas engine has 2 separate tanks, one for lava and the other for biogas, we can't simply tell the gate to call for more lava or biomass when it runs low. I.e., if we run out of biomass, but there's still lava in the tank system, this whole thing will fail because we will run out of fuel and never be resupplied. So to work around this, we separate the lava and the biomass into 2 separate tanks and let iron gates attached to each of those be responsible for handling any resource requests, as they allow us to monitor the lava and biomass levels independently of one another. To feed the liquids into the biogas generator, we simply use a wood pipe and an autark gate that submits a pulse anytime there is liquid in the tank. As you would expect, we are using the same type of magma crucible and igneous extruder setup that we used in our tin factory, whereby we use iron gates to turn on the igneous extruder whenever the magma crucible runs out of resources. I did not worry about barrels or anything like that here because it's a pretty simple system. Once again, an iron gate turns the magma crucible on and extracts the lava anytime it is notified that the system is running low. Finally, you may be asking why I went to the trouble of programming a computer control for this system, or you may be thinking that I did it just because it looks neat. Well, in the case of the latter, you're half right. It does look pretty neat, I think. However, cool looks aside, it does have a very practical purpose. Basically, if you run the system all the time, it will run out of charcoal, mainly due to the fact that it would spend a lot of time running when there is little to nothing to harvest. Now, while the biogas engine is much more powerful than the Stirling engines, there is only one of those compared to 12 of the Stirling variety. So this system works much better when it is powered by both sets of engines. Additionally, running the biogas engine all the time, while it is more efficient than electrical engines in my opinion, still eats into our overall biomass product. So basically, I use the computer control to toggle the system on and off at set intervals. This ensures that whenever the system is running, that enough time has passed that there will be plenty of materials to harvest, and yet I have it timed well enough so that it will never really lose any items due to despawning. To manage this, I presently have it set to run for 3 minutes and then turn itself off for a 5-minute wait or growth period for the farm and arboretum areas to repopulate. Doing this not only increases the operating efficiency of the system, but it also helps to reduce lag as well, so to me it's a win-win. Plus, as I said before, it just looks cool, and who doesn't like that? Okay, so I hope all that made sense, and hopefully this was not too boring. I will admit that I typed this out ahead of time, so I could kind of keep it straight and go through some sort of logical order and make sure I got all of the systems individually. If anything did not come across clearly, though, please let me know, and I'll be happy to try and address it in the comments, or perhaps cover it in a later video. Also, if you'll note in the description under this video, you can see that I have posted my code to Pastebin or some other site like that, and you can copy that into your Minecraft world if you want to try and use it. Although I will warn you, I'm certainly not a Lua expert, and in fact, programming this drove me nuts for the longest time because I kept wanting to put semicolons all over the place, or try using shorthand expressions for for and in the if statements, just kind of out of habit. So it does work, but it's definitely not perfect, and there may be more efficient ways to program this, and I'll probably be exploring those in the future. Obviously, if you're interested, let me know, and I'll be happy to post updates of my code as I develop it. But unless I really think there's a need, I probably won't go to that effort. Okay, guys, so now that we've kind of gone through how the system works, let's go into how it was built. And let me first say, I did originally plan to do this kind of as a let's play, but I ended up, well, not liking the footage that I shot for that. I didn't feel like I shot enough, so I'm just going to do this here now in our little creative world because I think it'll, take less time and it should make things a lot easier. So, basically, to get this more compact design that we have here, we have to go through and do this in a very specific order. And as part of that, we need to go ahead and put down our combine. And you can see here that I've kind of laid out the area that we're going to be using. And this all fits into a 19 by 19 area. And then we're going to go ahead and at the same level as the combine, we're going to lay down this other rim, which is a 13 by 13. Now you can make this wider as you want, if you want, but this is really the minimum you need. And I'll kind of show you why you need it in a second. Now, with this, the great thing about the farm is if you're building this into like a cave like I was with my system, you don't have to worry about clearing out so much land because it'll automatically do it for you. So like if we put our farm down right there, and then we fill it up with our dirt and our seeds, just like that, it will go ahead and start to clear out that dirt I just placed once this engine powers on. Now with this engine, you can fill it up using cans. I think you can even use buckets, whatever you want. But it is, you can use Stirling engines if you want, whatever. You just need to supply some sort of MJ power to these two devices. Now once they start powering on, you can see they'll clear out the area first, and then once that's done, it'll go ahead and start to lay down the dirt that's going to be used for farming. Now one other thing to keep in mind as you're doing this, as it does start to fill in this area, you're going to want to make sure that you have glowstone or torches or something, because if you don't, it really causes a lot of problems because it'll plant seeds and then the seeds don't have light, so they don't grow, so it just causes lots of issues. So make sure that you do have this area pretty well lit. And the reason that we went ahead and put down this rim here is because it's going to put that water in there. And a lot of times the water blocks won't update, and so it'll just hover there, but a lot of times that doesn't happen, and so you end up with water flooding the area that you're working in. Now one thing I always do is I just put the glowstone right there, and that will give us some light so that we don't have to worry about this area being too dim and the seeds, basically dying before they have a chance to grow. But obviously you can do this however you want. that's just the way I chose to do it in my design, because it does also give us some light down below as well. So, it'll go ahead and it'll fill this in for us. Now, the interesting thing about this, and let me double check this, is, okay, if we were to put a block like here, now normally this would get cleared out by the farm, but I think once it starts laying down dirt, it no longer checks above it to see, so it will no longer check above it to see if the area is clear. So once you do this, once you put it in place, and once it starts to lay down dirt, it's not going to check anymore. So this is how we're able to put our arboretum and our logger above it and not have them interfere. Now, I tried to do it just like this with the floor underneath the arboretum right at this level where there was just one block space, but it didn't seem to work. And I don't know if that's because of how wheat works, to be honest, or if it's something else to do with how the farm does it, because there are some peculiarities to how the farm... I don't think I got that right, did I? Oh, I was off. Let us see. Do I have this? Yes, I do. And see, this is what I'm talking about. It will knock out the power there. So apparently I mismeasured that. And see, this one here won't update. I think it's because if it places a piece of dirt for the farm, it will cause an issue. So basically, if you're measuring this out, wherever the corner is, you're going to have 3 sets of glowstone, at intervals of every 3 blocks. So, one there, 2 blocks, and then on the 3rd block you put a piece of glowstone, and so forth and so on. And that basically keeps the whole, makes it so that you'll have light, and you'll also won't have your work area flooded, because if anyone that has worked with redstone knows, flooding water is really a bad thing. Bad. I don't know why I did that, but why not? So let's go ahead and get everything working again. We need a switch. We need some redstone, and we don't need any more conductive pipe. And we need that. So, I could have just picked those up. Oh well. So, there we go. And turn it back on, and it'll finish everything for us. So let me go ahead and set it back to dawn once again. So really, once that's gotten started planing dirt, we don't have to worry about it anymore. So how I set it up and how it seems to work best is we leave a 1 block gap in between the farm and the logger, and then we'll go ahead and put our arboretum down, and we can go ahead and fill it up with humus, and really anything else up here is extra. Let's see, and then for this we need oak saplings. I don't have any space on my bar. This is going to be an issue. There we go. I knew it was like shift or something. I get so used to Feed the Beast where it's you can just use the NEI menu, but I don't have it in cheat mode right now, so just a little bit different. But there we go, and you can see that it's going to go ahead and start laying down the substrate for the farm itself. Now, once that's got started going, let me go ahead and select this. Now, the reason that I built it at this dimensions because the arboretum actually, the area that it needs is one block smaller. Or it's 1 block less wide, I guess, 2 blocks technically, than the farm. But, if we just include a rim around here, it helps. And you could actually make this a little bit narrower, I think, but really, this seems to be the best solution for me because it also makes sure that all of the trees have plenty of room to grow, and it will obviously also help us catch any saplings or anything like that falls down from the trees, and it keeps them from falling to a lower level. Because if they fall to a lower level, then the farm will not, or the logger will not pick them up. It has to be basically on its level or higher, it seems. I don't know for a fact, but it definitely seems to be the case. And definitely if it falls all the way down here, it will not pick up the item, because I think it's a 10 high area that it captures. So yeah, basically that's the layout, or basically that's how you need to set things up. Obviously, you need to have, you can set up lights along the side or something, or you can put a floor underneath here if you want. But again, be careful of this, because if you don't leave enough of a gap, the wheat will not grow. So that's something important to remember as well. Now, the great thing about all of this, though, is it gives us a nice 10 by 10 area in the center to work with. And this is where we can build all of our apparatus and for sorting and collecting and all that stuff, and we can make it look all nice and neat when we're done. So really, that's I think that's it. I don't think I had any other little tricks here that can really help you too much more than this. I mean, obviously, I would recommend with the farm you want to put another ring along the outside of here as well, and potentially one on the inside to make sure that to make sure that everything will not fall, like all of your wheat will not fall to a lower level or something. You can always just use glass or something to make a solid floor just in case. But I think basically if you have one block extra around this area, it definitely will seems to catch everything. So that's how I've had it set up. But obviously you can change this design however you want, and then if you do it like this, then we can run our exterior wall all around here. And basically you're going to need about a 10 high area here up top, so that the trees will have room to grow, and then you can just box it in like I did over here. And I really like doing this with the iron tank in the center, because I don't think it obstructs the trees from growing or anything, and it seems to give it a nice clean look, and it's very self-contained. Obviously in my Let's Play or my survival world, whatever you want to call it, I went ahead and ran scaffolding so that I can get up and down and yet still kind of keep the cleaner look of the design. So basically that's the setup. Obviously so basically, just summarizing, you want to have about a 19 by 19 by 19 cube to build everything in. And then obviously if you're doing something like me, you're going to want to have room underneath. Obviously here, that's not really an option, so I'm not going to worry about setting up everything else. Part of the reason that I did this particular video this way is because it really does depend on your particular setup, how you wire everything up and all of that. So you want to make sure that when you're doing this, that you go ahead and you set up everything ahead of time and kind of have an idea that of how much space you're going to have available, because this is something where it is pretty easy to build it into a smaller footprint, but you don't want to be working around something else while you're building this. So it's better to go ahead and set it up in a different area. Here's also one other issue. If you don't have a floor underneath this, sand is going to fall through. This is a problem. So that's another reason that we want to have a floor underneath here. If that is the case, you're going to want to make sure to raise this up one more level. So you'd want to have the farm one level higher if you are going to put a floor underneath and catch the sand. If you don't want to worry about it, you can do it in a little bit more compact area, but you're going to end up with a problem where you're going to have sand blocks falling all the time. So Anyways, that's pretty much all I had for that. We're going to go ahead, and I had a couple more things that I wanted to go through real quickly as part of this video, since I think I've probably managed to keep it relatively short, at least short for me. So I will do that, and we will resume in 1 second. Yeah, sometimes I just sit here and try to get some inspirations from the greats, like Sinister and Doc Brown, you know, those other mad scientists that have been celebrated throughout history. But speaking of celebrating, I kind of want to work on a new project today, or at least start work on that. It's more designing. And basically, I have at the top of here, next to my tin factory, and it may need to be moved a little bit if I decide to put another tin factory on the other side, but I have this passageway here. And this is actually one of the main areas that I get in and out of my base with. I've got a lot of different areas set up along here. This is, of course, my cow farm, which definitely looks like it needs to be cold a bit. Also, there's some tin there I might need to grab later as well. But I want to do something with this to make it a lot less, rough hewn. Oh, I got backwards there. Alrighty. And I also kind of wanted to do something that would kind of involve you guys in a bit. And I kind of wanted to go ahead and explain that here. Now, I try to do a good job with my videos, but occasionally I make mistakes. And, yeah, it's, it just happens. I'm rushing to get the video out, or I'm just blabbering, because as my girlfriend says, I'm like a babbling brook, but not as soothing. So, yeah, I make mistakes because I just get on a roll, and then I just screw up somewhere sometimes. I try not to do it, but sometimes I don't catch it, even in the editing process. And so I really appreciate it when you guys will point out my mistakes, because I'm trying to do a video that is somewhat, educational, informative, and things like that. And so it's nice to know that you guys actually watch the videos and you actually pay attention to what I'm, saying with it. And so I'd kind of like to do something of a Hall of Honor. Now, one thing I really like about Minecraft and Feed the Beast is that a lot of it is inspired by real life stuff. So, for example, like these Stirling engines here are actually something that does exist in the real world. In fact, they were developed by a individual by the name of Robert Stirling, I think. I keep wanting to say Roger Stirling because of Mad Men, but I do believe it is Robert Stirling, who was a Scottish clergyman. And Stirling engines were in fact used a lot at the turn of the last century in homes and farms and things like that, and hotels, for water pumps, because they would have like a boiler at the bottom of the, in the bottom of the basement or something like that, where they would heat the water and then they would use a Stirling engine to pump it up to the different levels of the house or hotel. And for today, I'm going to be taking a little bit of inspiration from an individual by the name of Don Knuth. Now, Don Knuth is a very influential and famous computer programmer that's specifically known... let's try taking that out. Specifically known for his series of books called The Art of Computer Programming. And he's a bit of an eccentric fellow. In fact, I know in one of his books, under, I think it was the acknowledgement section, yeah, kind of like that. He went and he's a big music fan, so he actually put a design for a pipe organ that he was building in the back of it for some reason. But he's a very eccentric fellow, but he's also a very, very great programmer and very influential in the programming world. And so in his books, if you catch him making a mistake and you write in about it, he will send you a digital dollar. Now, he used to actually send you actual checks, but for $2.56, which is what he called a digital dollar. Now, oh, that's a mistake. Let's fix that before I fall through there. but yeah, so he would send people a digital dollar, and this is what's considered sign it kind of as a big accomplishment. And if you're a programmer, is to have one of his checks. Now, a few years ago, he had I think it was 2007. I think he had his bank account, some money stolen out of his bank account from sending out these checks, because he'd actually send them out from his personal or business checking account. And so now he sends them out of a fictional bank called the Bank of Sans Serif. And so what I would like to do is do something kind of inspired by that, which is the Hall of Sandstone Serif. I think that's what I'm going to call it, but if someone else has a better idea, let me know. But basically, what I want to do is I want to, you like with the baseball or basketball, you have like the Hall of Fame. Well, in my case, I'm actually going to make my Hall of Fame, as it were, an actual hall. And so, and obviously based on the name, I kind of want to make it out of sandstone. Although it doesn't really go with the motif I have in here, which is a lot of grays. Hence, I'm trying to see if I can work in something where it will somehow meld the sandstone in with the gray a little bit. Like, I kind of like how this looks on the floor, but I don't know. Like, I don't have any spruce wood, and that's what I want to use, like, for pillars. But I'm going to work at this for a little while and see if I can come up with anything I like. Like I said, I may need your guys' help, and obviously, basically, this hall is basically an honor for anyone that contributes to the RGTG series, more or less. So I have one inductee that I'm going to be adding today. Obviously, anything we add today is going to eventually get moved up there when we do get this finalized. But what we're going to do is we're going to, I'm going to, kind of go through the mistake and give credit to the person, Mr. Tarn Zapfenbaumer, I do believe is his name, who caught it. And hopefully when you guys get back, I will have something that I kind of like, and then we'll probably close on that note. So I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, guys, so as part of today's video, I wanted to go ahead and kind of honor one of you fellow viewers for pointing out a mistake in one of my videos. In fact, the first one, my Ethonian Tin Factory video. And the individual in question is Mr. Tarn Zapfenbaumer. And the reason for this is he pointed out a mistake I made in that video. In that video, I showed you that I was talking about running 3 centrifuges as opposed to 5. And to be honest, I screwed up something in my head because I've done like several different revisions of this, building it. And to be honest, I just made a mistake. And he was the one that caught it. And so I wanted to give him credit and also go through and explain to you guys where I messed up. So basically, I showed you 2 different ways of sorting items that really you either use one or the other. You don't use both. And I also did a very piss poor job of explaining about how the why using the cans is so much more efficient than using the empty cells. Now, basically, one device I showed you is something like this, where you would put in 24 tin, which would be the product from a centrifuge if you were to use empty cells. And with this, it is set up so that if the pipe is empty, it'll turn the redstone signal on, and if the engine is blue, the redstone signal comes on. And we also have this set up so that this switch works as well. And basically, by spreading these things out like this, it'll ensure that we get an even split between here. Like you can see here, I've run 2 loads through, so there's we're 16 tin each for those, so we now have 32, and this one we have 16. Now again, this is important because with these it produces 24 tin if you use the empty cans, and it costs 16 tin to start it because that's what you need to produce the initial cans to get it to get running. Now, one thing I did not explain very well is that each of these produces 8 tin, regardless of if you use empty cells, empty cans, 8 tin product out of each of them. But the reason that we're splitting these up is so that we can run them into the system again, and basically each centrifuge will produce 8 for each cycle. Now, a smarter way of doing this, and this was the other way that I showed, is you can simply use a set, if you're using the empty cans. I keep wanting to screw that up, but if you use the empty cans, you can run 3 of these in tandem like this, and you can have 2 of them output into one chest. Now, obviously, this is a very shoddy kind of setup, but it just for illustration purposes. But basically, you can run 2 of these into this chest, for example, and you can use all of that 10 specifically for making more cans, and then this centrifuge here on the end, all 24, because it's 3 times 8, so 24. All 24 can go into basically the product. So this centrifuge here is what actually produces our, the 10 that we get to use for whatever projects we want. And then this is going to go, the 48 that come out of here are going to go back into the system for making more empty cans. Now, with using the empty cells, you can't do this because you have to split it 5 ways, because it produces 40, but it costs 32 to start. And that's, by the way, another one of the inefficiencies with this is the starting cost for using empty cells is twice as high as if you're using the empty cans. But if you want to do this kind of setup with this type of configuration, you would need to run all 5 of these, which of course requires more power. And with this, you can just run 3 and it will end up producing 24. With this, obviously, it produces more, 40, but for a closed loop system, you have to have all 5 of these active at once, or you need some way of counting to 5, basically. Now, if you want to use this type of splitting system as opposed to something like this, you can't do it with the empty cans pretty much, because, or the empty cells. See, I'm going to screw that up at some point, because with this, you see, we have to have this block here to cause it to change direction. Well, with this, like I said, we have to split it 5 ways, and there's no way to do it because we only have a total of 6 sides, obviously, on a block, and there's no place to put a block where it can redirect off of, I don't believe. Also, obviously, it's a lot clunkier. With this type of a setup, if you wanted to run them in tandem, you can do something like this, and it works. This would split it up just the way we need it to, and I don't think anything interferes with anything else. I mean, obviously, you've kind of got to be very careful with the positioning, because if you have like a block here, it would cause both of these gates to activate at the same time. So we have to have them on the outside. You could move them forward or backwards or something, but regardless, the basic thing is this is a pretty easy thing to set up, and I don't think there's a way to do it other than like using computers or something like that as a counter to redirect. I could see doing that, but there might be a chance there is like a delay in the system or something that might cause issues. But basically, running it with the empty cans is a lot easier than with the empty cells because of this. So I wanted to make sure that Tarzaf and Bomber get credit for pointing out my mistake, and hopefully this kind of addresses some of the things that I might have messed up in my other video. Now, another individual by the name of Optimus528 also said that you can, in the newest version of Feed the Beast, somehow you can run lava into the centrifuge without having to worry about going through anything with the cans or anything like that. And he was saying that you could run liquid pipes underneath and somehow it would work. Now, I've been playing around with it in creative, as you can tell, and I can't figure out how to do it. So maybe there's a trick to it I don't understand. I'm in the most current version of Feed the Beast, which is beta pack version 12, but I don't see how you can do it. So, Mr. Optimus528, if there is a way of doing this, you'll have to let me know, because I really don't know. But obviously, it would help simplify this kind of setup if there was a way to do it. So I would definitely appreciate you sharing those details if you happen to see this video. So hopefully that will have addressed those mistakes. I'm sure I've made plenty more today. So I'm sure you guys will have plenty of chances to catch me on other things in the future. But for right now, we're going to go back to my survival mode because I'm no longer in creative. Yay! I'm so tired of being in creative mode all the time and then also in editing mode. But anyways, hopefully I will have come up with some sort of design that I like, or at least have made some progress and will catch up with me there. Alright guys, so I'm back, and hopefully that video helped to sort out any confusion that might have resulted from my other videos. But I think I've come up with something I kind of like. And here it is. Now, I'm not totally sure about these sides. Like, I kind of like that you can see... Okay, well, let me kind of go into a little bit of my thoughts behind this. Mainly, I wanted the name to be the primary thing that you see. Because, again, this is kind of a Hall of Honor, so it's supposed to look prestigious. But the name is supposed to stand out. So I tried, like, doing stuff like this. But then it kind of... the name didn't stand out as much as I liked. I mean, it looks okay. But then it kind of takes away a little bit from the name, I think. And again, it's kind of this is supposed to be more about you guys and less about me, so I want the focus to primarily be on the name, I think. Although that really doesn't look that bad. Let's see how it looks from the side. Not terrible. I don't know. I kind of like both a little bit. Now, I tried different things with the ceiling, like recessing the lighting, but this seems to work pretty well, and the light levels are such that we shouldn't get mobs in here, which is good because hopefully we won't have too many names for mistakes, but if people contribute, I definitely want to give them credit, and I don't want to have to redo a whole bunch of signs if a creeper blows up or something. So, I don't know. You'll have to... Again, this haul is more about you guys and less about me, so you'll have to let me know what you think. Because I definitely want your input on this. Yeah, that's not bad. I definitely want to get some spruce wood, too, so I can intermix it with this. But I think it came out okay where the grays from this are not... oh, darn it. I didn't mean to break that one. Let's see. There we go. The grays and the yellowish kind of tan color of the sandstone are kind of going together pretty well, I think. Let's do the same here. And just see how it looks all together if we do decide to do that particular style. But as you can see, I've already added in Tar Zapfenbomber's name into here. Which, because I just kind of wanted to have a test case to try it out with. And I already ran into an issue because his name won't fit onto a single line. When I was typing it out, I was kind of wondering, I wonder what would happen if a name was too long. And then I realized as I was typing it, it's like, oops, his name is too long. So I had to split it up. Sorry, Tarzan, or Tarn Zapfenbomber. I can't shorten that. I guess you would say Tarn or Tarnzap. Maybe that's how you do a short name of it. But sorry, I had to split up your name. I apologize. But yeah, no, that looks pretty decent, I think. And the main reason that I'm doing it this way, as opposed to building a whole separate structure for it, it's not just because I'm lazy. I am lazy. I'm not going to argue with that. But it's not just because of that. Because I've seen people, like I know BW used to do this, where when people donated, he would put their name in like something he built. But my problem with that is you don't see it unless he's going to add new names. So to me, that kind of takes away part of the incentive. Because again, you're contributing to the program, so I kind of feel like it should, you should be a part of it. I kind of like that with the recessed as well. Might have to try that out. But I want it to be something where you see it too when I'm doing videos. Now I don't do a whole bunch of Let's Play stuff, so you don't see me moving around my base too much. But if I am moving around, I definitely want you to to be able to see it. And this is one of the main passageways that I use to to the back of my base and to the front and so forth and so on. So I kind of thought it would be really cool to have something where I could have something that not only looked good, as I kind of think this looks good. I really do like that recessing. Might have to play around with that, because might be able to do something where it's like, let's see. Oh. Darn it. Maybe put some, I keep doing that, and I swear I'm so afraid of falling down. I don't think it would kill me because there is water down there, but I definitely don't want to find out. But it might be something where I could do some, let's see. Put that there. And no, that wouldn't look right either. Again, it's something I'm going to have to play with, and if any of you guys have any suggestions for the design, I'm definitely open to some suggestions. I keep thinking it would be cool to stick like some netherrack and, have like flames kind of like coming in to it. I thought that would look kind of neat, but again, it's going to have to be something I play around with. I definitely want the final to be designed to be something very cool to look at, and that both you and I would be proud to have our names attached to. That was kind of my thoughts. Now, obviously, here I've put his Tarnzap's name on either side, which I, again, slave to symmetry, had to do it. But hopefully, this will kind of be like, if you guys do contribute to this series, hopefully it'll help motivate me to actually, design some of my base so that it looks better. Now, I did use the stairs here so that the light could come through, and I'm not too thrilled with how it looks from the side, but it's not terrible either. I kind of like that you can see it out. I might try it with a different kind of wood. I don't know. Again, this is something I'm going to have to kind of play around with, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And if I decide to later to, run tracks down here so that it'll allow me to get to different areas a little bit easier, obviously this design is one that you can do that, although I'm going to I'd have to do something different with the floor because of these half slabs. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this design. And I definitely look forward to getting your guys' feedback on what you think. Because, again, this is kind of supposed to be about you and less so about me. Oh, one other thing. Because I'm sure I will make lots of mistakes that will be minor mistakes. And as this is supposed to be kind of a Hall of Honor, Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, yeah, there are definitely going to be some criteria that you have to meet to be able to get your name in here. This isn't something that that just anyone can get in here. Again, it's, so if you catch me where I've used incorrect grammar or something, or catch a spelling mistake in one of my cue cards, I'm not saying don't let me know about it, because if it's something I can fix, I'll definitely try to. But it doesn't qualify you for this type of thing. It actually has to be some sort of contribution. And just like with the Hall of Fame committee, they have, or a Hall of Fame, they have a Hall of Fame committee that determines who gets put into the Hall of Fame. The same goes here. The only difference is, obviously, I am the Hall of Fame committee. So I get to determine who gets put in. If you contribute something and it doesn't make it, that's not me dissing you in any way. It's just I have to have my standards, because, again, I want to make sure that this is a reward for people that are actively involved with the program in some way. So, with that out of the way, you will guys will definitely have to let me know what you think, and let me know, if there's if you think I could do this better. I keep wanting to do like lava columns or something, but again, I kind of want to keep it from making it too fancy. I mean, it's supposed to look regal and prestigious, but if it's too fancy, it distracts from the names. And again, that's the primary focus. other than being, of course, a means of making it from one side of my base to the other. It is supposed to definitely be the focus, so I keep walking back and forth trying to decide if I really like this or not. So, as always, your feedback is appreciated, and thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of the tutorial kind of thing that I did. I don't even know if I want to call it a tutorial explanation. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely will probably be working on some new videos in the near future. So once again, this is Andrew and Price bidding you, well, good morning and good gaming. Bye.